Good morning, everybody. Welcome to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment. We are going to do things a little bit differently today. We're going to bypass the normal morning pleasantries and the normal morning chit-chat and just get right into this. But before we start the big part of the show, I have a special guest who's online and ready to come in here, and some of you probably know who that is. But before we do that, I have three quick little things I want to say. Number one, this is all about the video that I released yesterday, the GH5 Autofocus comparison / test, whatever video that I did yesterday. Man, did I kick into a hornet's nest doing that. The commenters have gone crazy on this, and it's been really interesting to follow. But one of the biggest things, one thing I do want to address, I have gotten an unbelievable amount of shit for recording externally, because people have said, well, the camera focuses faster when you're not recording. Once you hit the record button, autofocus slows down. To that I say, I didn't know that. I did not know that. And I haven't even run my own tests yet to test it, but that is what people are saying all over the internet. I genuinely did not know that. I know people are saying, yes, you did. You're just lying to us. It's the truth. I didn't know. I have done recording internally and externally. Have not noticed a difference myself, but I haven't been comparing them side by side. So my apologies to all of you who feel like I'm lying to you, but I'm not. This is just simply, I was recording that way so that, just like I do on the live show here all the time, so that you, the audience, could see the on-screen display. I can't do that while recording internally, but I can externally. That's why you can see the box moving around my face, you can see the focus points, all of that. So that's why I did that. Okay. Number two, I have been called out for saying that autofocus isn't all that necessary if you're a high-end pro. Apparently, a lot more pros than I realize shoot with autofocus and rely on it. So if I have upset you, and obviously I have upset quite a few people by saying that, again, I apologize to you. I did not mean to offend. From my perspective, working as a pro, I usually don't go into autofocus when I'm shooting pro stuff. More vloggy, casual, that's what I do. But apparently that is not the case. I have been corrected. So there you go. And number three, and this is the most important one, a lot of people asking about my relationship with Panasonic, or saying, hey, he's a Panasonic employee, he's a shill, you can't trust anything he says. Okay, number one, I'm not an employee. I'm a Lumix luminary. Lumix luminaries are like your Sony Artisans, your Canon Explorers of Light, whatever. We are sponsored by Panasonic. They give us a little bit of money, and believe me, it ain't much, and they give us some gear. And sometimes, very rarely, but sometimes we get gear in advance, as I did with the GH5. What I say comes from my mouth. I am a photographer. I'm a professional photographer and filmmaker. All of the opinions come from me. Yes, I have early access to gear and information sometimes. Sometimes I can get the inside track. I can get clarification on things. But what I say is not Panasonic party line. And if you're taking it that way, you are incorrect. I am speaking as a photographer who happens to also be a Panasonic Lumix luminary. That's all there is to that. Now, with that said, the rest of this show, forget about the luminary part. The rest of this show is a conversation between two professional photographers and YouTubers, and that is what this is. And with that, I would like to bring on our guest, Max. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you for coming on. This is quite cool. This is quite an honor. So, good morning to you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Good morning.
So, obviously, my video has kicked up a bit of a hornet's nest, and I understand that. And I obviously saw your reaction and your response, and well, let's just open it with that. So thanks for putting out that video yesterday. That was kind of fun. I was watching a movie, came out of the movie theater. You posted this video 40 minutes ago, and it was like page after page after page of comments on my screen. It's been exciting. So before we get into the actual video itself, anything you want to add to that, or that you want to add to what you had said on there?
The call out video?
Yeah.
I think I said it pretty well. Are you seeing me pixelated right now?
Yeah, you're getting a little pixely on there. You might want to look for any backup or download or anything that's happening on your end. But we can hear you, and that's definitely what's most important.
Sounds good. So I don't think I have anything to add. I think I kind of made myself clear. So this whole autofocus thing, it came up it just kind of exploded. So I did my first look review, which we started doing with multiple cameras, where we just go out, test. I don't really give any opinions or any like hard facts or anything like that. I show off the image quality, different settings, what the camera's kind of capable of. And it's a first time for us. So any first impressions that I get, when I'm using the camera, like I said, like the screen was really nice and bright. My assistant was recording me with the 6500. That's our main camera, and he couldn't see anything outside. So basically, a part of that was video autofocus, because I had a lot of people asking about that, in the months coming up to the release.
Of course.
And then when that came out, there were just, like you said, so much comments, so much just questions and everything else. So we decided to explore it further. What I thought would be 2-3 hour job turned out into 2 days before that half-hour video was posted.
Yeah, I know.
And then the comparison with the 6500, what started out as also a couple-hour thing, turned out over a day of, of getting stuff right, because I don't want to misrepresent anything. And if I do, and I've had situations in the past where my copy was not the same as others. I won't get into too much details, but I always want to go back on it, explain, figure out what's going on, and have the correct information. So that's how this whole thing happened. Here we are Friday. We haven't really got much work done that pays, and we tell me
about it.
We're not just YouTubers. We make money doing video. So here we are.
Yeah, so here we are. Yeah, no, that's you're right, and I think a lot of people forget that. It's nice when you see that occasional comment that says, "Hey, I appreciate how much work you're putting into this," because a lot of people think that this somehow just magically happens, and you've got 10 times the follower count that I do, and I know how much money I make on ad revenue, so if I multiply that by 10, that still isn't making a living. So, I think a lot of people don't appreciate that a lot of what we do here is because we're loving it and enjoying it and having fun, but we're not making our living doing this, so people give us a hard time for it. Mm-hmm. So I know that in your video, you said that your call out to me, you had said that I was a bit insulting, and I want to, number one, apologize. I was not intending to be insulting. I was having a little fun, poking a little fun at you. But I went back and I rewatched my video yesterday, my own video, just to see what I said. What did I really say in there? What did I put on the screen? Because I know I had some text on there. And I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm assuming what you're referring to is me calling the test a dumb test. And I don't mean, by all means, I don't mean that to mean that you're dumb, because you are clearly a very intelligent, very smart person. So that is obviously not the case. What I meant was more that to me didn't seem like a very realistic test. But with that said, realistic from the sense of how people are going to be using the camera. But with that said, your tests are very scientific and very methodical, which is a great way to run tests, absolutely. Mine was a bit more, I'm just kind of walking around, bouncing around, back and forth, which on one hand, I feel is a bit more realistic how the camera gets used, but on the other, it wasn't exactly the same each time, so it's not the best test. So I get it. I did not mean to say that. You certainly wasn't saying that you're dumb, and if you took offense to that, I do apologize.
That's okay. I like I said, I don't like holding grudges. I don't get offended easily. So there's no hard feelings in that way. I think I'm fairly patient and everything overall. So
yeah, you've been on here longer. Your YouTube skin's probably thicker than mine too.
Yeah, you have to have a thick YouTube skin.
Yeah, that you do.
That's true.
That you do.
So I wanted to, one thing I wanted to point out is the testing that we do here in the office. It is really bright in here. We're shooting at 200 ISO. Some people think that it's low light or something like that. It's really bright in here. And the reason why we do this inside test is because it's repeatable. So with different cameras, we have the same actions and things we could do to see how it performs, what it's better at and worse. But then we'll go out and do a lot of real world scenarios with, things that my viewers and commenters actually say, hey, this is what I do, or this is what my use case is, or this is what my use case is. But in those situations, it's really hard to repeat the same exact things when you're looking at different autofocus points, different settings. So you have to kind of have, like you said, a scientific, repeatable testing methodology for that specific, purpose of comparing settings.
Right, absolutely. And your job's a lot harder than mine in that sense, because you are comparing all kinds of different cameras. That's not what I do. I have no interest in comparing other cameras. I love to talk about the Lumix gear because, well, number one, I am sponsored by them, but I genuinely love it. I mean, I wouldn't be using it if I wasn't, and I wouldn't be sponsored by them if I wasn't. As a luminary, that came up because I was shooting. I don't shoot Lumix because I was a luminary. So in that regard, yeah, your job is a lot harder because you do have to compare all these different cameras and repeat those tests across, which I don't do. My objective in doing any video about the camera is to show what it can do and how to get the best out of it, which I know at the end of the day is a big part of what you're doing. And you're interested, and this is why you've made the video and invited me up there, you're interested in showing the audience how to get the most out of this camera. That's the end goal here. I know you said that you're planning on buying several of them for your studio, and that's awesome. So you obviously, it's in your interest to get the best out of it as well.
Yeah, they're great cameras. Like I said, I think in the video I mentioned how much Panasonic cameras I've owned. And I've actually missed multiple different cameras that I've owned as well, even though the list was pretty big. So they're fantastic cameras, but like I said, you need the right tool for the job. Yeah. I have different brands, different lenses, to find the right tool for the job. for specific use cases, different things work the best. So,
Right.
and I often recommend cameras that I don't personally own and use because they don't work for me, but to other people, that's what fits their need best.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it's the right tool for the job. And when it comes to autofocus, for some people it's critically important, for some it's completely irrelevant. It's been really interesting to watch the comments to see how many people will say, I'd say well over half of the comments are comprised of people either saying the autofocus looks great to me or I don't care about autofocus, versus the other slightly less than half saying the autofocus sucks, this is unusable. And I think it is important, and I know that you've already said this yourself, autofocus is one component of the camera. What it can do outside of autofocus, forgetting about the autofocus part of it for a moment, is incredible. It's an incredible camera that has incredible capabilities you don't find in anything else, certainly at this price point. So
exactly.
In that regard,
Panasonic has also always offered a lot of bang for the buck in their cameras.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and the whole thing about, there's a lot of people that don't need autofocus at all, and some need a little bit, and like the single point lock on autofocus works great, where you just, even in manual, I love that you can touch on the screen, it'll do a quick autofocus and then lock on.
Right.
I mean, that worked great with the GH4's. I love that feature. So, but it was interesting in this whole week of things that I have learned. So traditionally, as far as I've heard, that people in high-end production don't use autofocus at all. And for example, here I'm testing out this
Good
beast,
Lord.
the Ursa Mini Pro. I need to make sure it's not cut off.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
But
Jesus.
for example, this doesn't have continuous autofocus at all. And so what they would do, and with the Red or any other camera, it's spend a couple grand on wireless follow focus, have a person sitting there with a screen and watching what's happening and controlling. And now in this whole thing in the comments, and actually talking to, I got another GH5.
Okay, great.
Make sure I'm not cut it off, but I have another one recording me here. But I borrowed this from a guy who does high-end productions.
Okay.
And he said that he's on shoot and they're using wireless follow focus systems, and they're doing a shot, and all of a sudden the focuser yells soft, and they redo it again and redo it again and redo it again. And now I've heard from him and from other people that are high-end production, they're really literally renting C300 Mark IIs for specific shots that they need good focus, like on gimbals and stuff like that. So the industry is changing, to choose the right tool for the job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that C300 Mark II, that camera has really good follow focus, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, good. Well, then let's talk about coming up there, because I'm totally game. I would love to come up there and work with you and put something together to figure out how to make this thing absolutely sing and get the most out of it. And obviously, I know, especially when you put that video side by side with the Sony, clearly the autofocus is superior on other cameras. Okay, well, there's nothing you can say about that. That comparison video you did was pretty damning. That's a hell of an autofocus, what that little tiny Sony camera did. So no arguing that. But that doesn't mean that we can't get better on the GH5, and it's worth spending the time to figure out what it can do and make the best out of it. And I think it's important for people to know, too, if we're going to do this, that our objective isn't to come out with a video that says, oh, the GH5 is the best autofocus ever. No, it's to come out with a video that says this is how you get the best autofocus out of the GH5. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I want to find out the best settings, and then so for basically what I would like to do is I added one more on, so 5 use cases where I have real people that use it for these use cases.
Okay.
What's the best setting for each use case, and then for people who own GH5s, for them to see how it performs in that use case, so if it will work for them, basically, if it's the right tool for the job for them, and if they buy it, what setting they should use for that specific case.
Great, yeah, perfect. Well, I say let's do it. We can have a conversation offline about the timing of it, but we should do this as soon as we can. So I think it'd be a lot of fun to do. And where in Washington are you?
Spokane.
Okay, cool. I'm
I think
in
it's probably
Ashland.
about 6-7 hour drive, but flight should be.
I'm in Ashland, not near Portland. I'm at the
how far?
bottom of the state. It'll be
Sounds
a flight.
good.
It'll be a flight.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll get that sorted out. But yeah, let's absolutely do it. I think that'll be fun. So I'm stoked. I'm excited to do this. I really am. I know that a lot of people are reacting to the videos that we've done, and it's been funny to see some of the comments when you did the calling me out video. People are like fight, and
No, that's not the purpose of it.
It's not.
Really is not the purpose of it.
Yeah.
So
Agreed. Excellent. Right on. Well, let's do this thing. So thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate you coming on live with me this morning. I'm glad we could have this conversation. And I haven't even looked at the comments. There are a lot flying by. In fact, hold on one second. I want to see. I forgot to load this page up. Yeah, there's 185 people watching live right now. So this obviously is getting some attention. And that's good. We're bringing attention to the camera, bringing awareness to the camera. That's good. That helps me for my role with Panasonic to be able to bring some more attention to this camera. And I appreciate your honesty and your thoughtfulness on this and your willingness to work together to get the best out of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, no problem. Are there any, I know we talked about questions before. Are there any questions that people have on this topic, or are we going to wait till?
Yeah, well, let's here. Let me take a quick look at the comments here. So, people who are in the comment section, do you have the comments running on the screen over there?
I don't have it on.
Okay, so as a reminder, so for people who are watching this live, as a reminder, if you want to ask either of us a question, hit the @ in front of it. Type @ and then PhotoJoseph @ Max and get this. Otherwise, it's like a million comments and then we're not going to see it. But if you add us, then it'll highlight and we will see it. So I'm just going to scroll back through here and see if there's anything that's come up already that we need to address. Naturally, somebody's vacuuming next door right now. That's wonderful. Let's see here. Just chit chat. Nothing. Bart saying to me, I trust your integrity to review things honestly despite any brand affiliations. Thank you. I appreciate that. And that, honestly, that's been one of those things people say, oh, Joseph is a shill. He's just going to tell us, what he wants us to hear or whatever. And it's not true. I'm not going to knock the camera. That's true. If I do something that I think is bad, I'm going to work my way around it and find out how to make it good. That is true. I'm not going to say, oh, this camera sucks, because it doesn't, first of all. But anyway, that's my role there. So just that said. Let's see here. So you need to take a look on your screen to see if anybody's highlighting you, because I only see highlights on mine.
People are asking about a firmware update.
Okay, so Vadim just asked one question's coming up.
Pick up your earphone. It's there we go. Thanks.
I should have pulled the other one out. So Vadim just asked. People are asking about a firmware update. If that could improve anything. What's your opinion on that?
My opinion is that anything is possible. Right, that's the beauty of firmware updates. It's like software for your phone. They can add new features and they can add bug fixes. We know for a fact that Panasonic is releasing future firmware updates to add features. Right, they announced that before they even started shipping the camera. Clearly, if there's any bugs that they can fix, they will fix them. If there's any improvements that they can make, obviously they're going to make them. So yes, we know that firmware updates are coming. That has been announced by Panasonic. What's going to be in those firmware updates as far as features is also known. They've told us that. As far as will bugs be fixed? Absolutely, that goes without question. Any bugs that will be found that can be fixed will be fixed. Will autofocus improve? That we don't know. That's something that is completely out of our hands, and if Panasonic can find a way to make it better, make better presets, make God knows what, of course they will, but we don't know until they do it.
What was that? Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I can chime in on that.
No, do, please.
I think so. The system is contrast detection, so of course they can't change that system, right. But I think it can be tweaked and optimized. And what I would like to have in there is like on other systems where you can dial in all the settings, but they also have little explanations or little presets where if you're doing face tracking, this is what works best. If you're doing this specific thing, because I mean, we've spent a lot of time testing, finding different settings, and we can try to get the information out. But not everybody's going to be watching these videos, and especially when they're out shooting and they need to change a setting, it's nice to see that. So that's something that I would like to see, just to make it easier for all the people that are out there using it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Panasonic will be watching this video if they're not watching it live right now, and that request, believe me, you're not the first to make it. We all were requesting that, and I have no idea if it's going to happen or not, but hopefully we will see the same type of presets that we have for stills. Because when you go into the stills autofocus control, you have presets. I don't know if you've dug into the stills side of it all.
Yeah, I think you have presets, and then you can make your own presets too, right?
You can overwrite the existing presets. You can't save separate ones, but there's, I forget, 3, 4 something presets in there. You can overwrite those, but those are already dialed in with optimum settings, so you can tweak those if they suit your needs better. But yes, there are no presets for the video side, which is something that I think we need, and you and I are not the only ones that have requested that, so hopefully they will add that in. And that is the type of thing that technically is, there's no reason it shouldn't be possible, so yeah, hopefully we'll get that in there.
Yeah, that would be great. I have maybe we'll leave my question to the end if there's any other questions.
Okay, sure. I'm scrolling through now. There's a lot now that I've said to add us. There's a lot more of that coming up. Martin just saying, hopefully the work we do can get this in front of the right eyes. And people, believe me, Martin, people at Panasonic are watching. There's no question about that. Mephisto is just saying thanks for the both of us for our efforts and for sharing our experience and knowledge. You're quite welcome, Mephisto. Trevor is saying, I'm constantly surprised that people keep having this debate without talking about phase detect versus contrast detect, which you just touched on, and how that has significant impact on Panasonic's performance. Is that related to what you wanted to ask about or talk about?
No, it's not.
Okay, so yeah, there's two different autofocus systems: phase detection, contrast detection. As far as it seems pretty clear that phase detection is faster. My understanding, and now this is not, I'm not quoting anybody, this is not like a Panasonic party line or anything, this is just my understanding, and I could be wrong, so if I'm wrong, somebody tell me. My understanding is that with phase detection autofocus, there are pixels in the sensor that are phase detect pixels, and that if you look closely enough on the final footage, you can actually see some kind of artifacting left behind by those pixels, which makes for in that regard, an inferior image. Panasonic's sensors are contrast detection, which don't have those. It means slower autofocus, but the idea is that you have a better image quality, you don't have these artifacts in there. That's what I have heard. If I'm wrong, somebody please correct me, but that is what I understand as to why Panasonic has stuck with what they have. I don't know if there's another technical reason why they couldn't go phase detection, but that's my understanding of why they have stuck with it, because it's ultimately a better image quality at the end, and on the higher end market, the film people shooting in Hollywood, that is critical. Having those ghosty pixels, whatever, is unacceptable. So maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, please tell me, but that's what I understand.
Do you want me to chime in on that at all?
Yeah, please, go right ahead. Absolutely.
Okay, so I know Canon's dual pixel technology, like in that C300 Mark II, which is a high-end camera, it's kind of based off phase detection, but it's tons of focusing points. So it does have that focusing phase right next to each pixel. So I mean, my thoughts, and maybe we can get some somebody from Panasonic to chime in later on this, but Panasonic has really put a lot of time and effort developing their depth to defocus technology for the photo side, and it works incredibly well. Mm-hmm. Super fast, super accurate in photos. So my guess would be, and this is a guess, that if they switch their whole autofocusing system, they would either have to, maybe they wouldn't be able to use that, which works amazing for photos, really fast, like I said. That kind of could be a guess. But the dual pixel stuff that's in that C300 is technically like a version of a phase detect. Okay. So that would just be a guess from my end.
And have you heard anything about this artifacting or ghosting that I've heard about?
I haven't. Personally, I've never heard anything like that. And I know the image quality coming out of some of these other cameras does look, it looks really great, and sure. I haven't noticed anything. But it also really depends on a lot of other things, the downsampling of the image, how much autofocus points are there. I think there's just a lot of things there that could come into consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right, good. All right, let's see what else we got in here. Someone wants to see a test on the movie. You're talking about the gimbal, right? The movie's a gimbal. I was thinking it was something else. Yeah, that's farther down the road. I don't have a gimbal. You obviously do, because you were thinking of buying one for that, but you're not going to now. At least that's not the plan. If it doesn't work for that, it doesn't work for that. That's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. Like you said, right tool for the job. I am Dr. Death. Nice name. I am Dr. Death says, nice to see two guys working towards a common goal. Hope there's an 80% speed improvement, as the sad part so far is the speed. So he wants specifically 80%, not 75, not 90, but he wants 80% speed improvement. So we will see if we can do that for you, Mr. Death. Achita, hello again, says, how do both of you get rid of dullness of creativity in your work? Well, that's a nice question. So totally separated from the camera. Good. I like these kind of questions. How do you get rid of the dullness in your work, not doing the same dull thing every day, day in and day out?
I don't just do YouTube videos, and I don't just do scientific tests. I do projects for people right now. We're working with doing video for a beauty company. Cool. I like shooting weddings, run and gun, lots of different creativity there. You do kind of what you want, and you can basically, I call it art. You're tons of shooting, and then the whole thing could be totally different depending how you edit it together, music, words. If I was just doing these scientific tests, I would go mad by now. No doubt. I already feel like the end of this week I'm going mad.
It's time for vacation, yeah? Yeah. Do you guys do still photography as well, or are you primarily video?
I started out doing still photography. I went into weddings, did that for like 4 years, 5 seasons. And then when the camera started having video features, I started just playing with it as a hobby. and got more and more into it. And then I did both for 1 year, and I just decided I like the video side. I like being able to play with words, with music, edit stuff together and tell a story that way. So I decided I'd rather focus on one area and get great at that instead of just being okay in two areas.
Right.
So
good, cool, awesome, very nice. All right, let's see what else. Let's see, firmware updates. We already answered those questions. Okay, Faked Cube is saying, ask Max if he's seen Ken Ross's videos doing the same test as his plus real world test and has a completely different result. Now I know I bookmarked that video this morning because I saw another comment. Have you seen this?
I don't think I've seen his specific one. I've seen a lot of different people put out videos, and it's really interesting because you have to, if you're going to be comparing to my results, you should use something similar to what I'm doing. And I've got a couple conclusions from these different videos. And what I saw in the Panasonic video where they're inside a studio, they have a similar color backdrop, good lighting, and it shows it working fairly well. And then I saw other people, another person's shooting well lit against a white wall, and it's working well. And then, I don't know, it just clicked to me, well, this is a contrast-based system. So if the only contrast that is there is yourself, it's going to be picking up. It's not going to pick up a white background. So that kind of makes sense. But when you're in different scenarios, like if you're shooting outside on a gimbal and there's trees in the background, buildings, or you're shooting a wedding, you're trying to track something there, you're inside, there's stuff in the background. It has a lot more to look at, to think about, to process. So that could be a difference in results. And then some of the people were shooting at, one person said I was shooting at f5.6 or f7, at like 12 millimeters. Well, you're going to have a different result. You have way more in focus compared to I'm shooting at 35, which is 70 equivalent at f2.8. So depth of field is shallower. So there's a lot of variables that come into play as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Of course, the depth of field has a lot to do with it. All my tests were shot wide open because I wanted to get as narrow of depth of field to show the success or failure of it as clear as possible. And I agree, the white background, I think, Panasonic did a lot of great videos, but I think that the white background there was not a good way to show it because that does favor the camera. Like you said, it's contrast based. You're the only contrast, so of course it's going to grab onto you. That's why I shot all mine outside, not against a seamless or even the door like you did in yours. I took it outside so that there would be all that crap in the background. The trucks, the trees, the cars, the building, the people, everything else, just to really, this is as more real world. So, yeah. Yeah,
and then thinking about that too, the door situation here, the door is wood, lots of texture. Then right next to it, we have windows with blinds and then light coming through. This is probably a really tough test for the camera with blinds, light leak, door with texture, and then the person, is walking in front of it. So, we've tested, pretty much all the cameras in this situation if we're trying to be more scientific. So it's, similar results. Outside lighting will change. There's a lot of other variables that come into play, but this is a tough test for those of you guys who are watching because contrast-based system, there's a lot of contrast there. So that comes into play as well.
Yeah, you mentioned the depth from defocusing earlier, and that's how the Panasonic's doing the focusing on this camera. And I wonder, I don't know this, it just occurred to me as you're talking about this, we've all done these tests with the camera locked on a tripod. So the background is static or maybe some trees moving around, but it's the depth to that is static, right? The distance isn't changing to the background. I wonder how different the results are when you are shooting handheld and you're actually moving the camera around. So in three-dimensional space, there is a complete difference from the camera to your subject to the background. That's interesting. I wonder how much of a difference that'll make. So when we do get together and test, we should do some stuff handheld versus just locked on.
Yeah, definitely. I think we'll have some different tests. And I shot an event. It was like a ALS type gathering. It was an unfortunate event, but they wanted it kind of documented with the GH5. And the first hour, I tried different settings and stuff like that. And then my assistant and editor, he noticed that. He's like, a lot of the stuff isn't working out. And then I just switched to manual focus. Some people think that I just can't manual focus or something since we're focusing on these tests. I've been doing it for years. So I switched to manual focus and I shot the event, but I have a little bit of experience. So for those of you watching, we're not only just shooting this kind of an inside test with that.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think when we do some tests together, it'll definitely be something to try out and go rogue on it. And I'd even said in some of the comments, people are telling me, oh, you got to redo your test recording internally and all that. And I said, look, I'm kind of bored, done with this. Stick the camera on a tripod, do these tests. What people really need to see is real world stuff. Take it out and go vloggy style. Go out and shoot an event, shoot a wedding, shoot a sports event, and try it in real world situations. And that's what really matters. That's where it really matters. How well it performs in a lab, whether your lab is your backyard or an actual scientific lab, or versus real world, are very different things. And it's the real world. But like you said, it's that consistency that you have to be scientific about it. It's a bit of a, you win some, you lose some. Definitely a challenge there. But we'll do some tests that are a bit more real world for sure. All right, let's see what else. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to ignore that one. Handheld test. People saying they want to see handheld. Yep, handheld. Agreeing. People agreeing. They all want to see handheld. Slow-mo Sage, I guess. Slow-mo Sage is saying to both of us, would you like to see higher frame rates like 240 or 300 FPS in the GH5, even if it's at 720p? Yeah, that's something that had come up when I originally did the interviews with Sean. People were asking about that. Could we get higher frame rate at lower resolution? Would you care about that? Is that something you would personally use?
I don't shoot slow motion that often.
Okay.
I shoot 24 almost always. I used to shoot 30 for weddings, and when I switched to 24, I could definitely tell a difference. And there's a reason why most films are shot in 24. It's kind of, if you're trying to emulate that film look. Yeah. And that's what some people prefer. I mean, a lot of brides, when they watch it, they probably don't notice or care. But we try to achieve what our preferences and styles are. So the only time I shoot high frame rate is if I'm going to slow it down, and I don't do that too often. I mean, one thought is, for weddings, I do want to shoot some shots at 60 so I can slow it down. Mm-hmm. It does look nice. But personally, I don't have a use case for it. But there are people who are doing stuff that they want to slow down. So sure. If that is something that is possible to have 240 at a lower resolution, then
so that question, like I said, it did come up. We asked Sean about it. His comment was unlikely to happen. Technically, I'm sure it's possible, but unlikely to happen. I would imagine I'm shooting pretty much everything 4K now, and dropping to 1080p. Not really where I want to be, so certainly dropping to 720p, I'd say forget it. I'm not going to go down to 720p. I'd go at 1080p. If I needed slower motion than the 180 frame per second you could do at 1080, then I would just do that in After Effects or something and add those frames and make it slower there. So yeah, personally, I don't think I would use it. I could see certainly, if you could get 1,000 frames per second at SD speed, SD resolution, then it might be fun for some people to have that, but I don't think it's probably not worth the engineering resources that it would take for Panasonic. Yeah,
there's some cameras out there that offer it, but from what I've seen, nobody actually makes use of it after doing some tests because you want the quality to look good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because you can get 1,000 at not even SD resolution doesn't mean people are going to use it. So
yeah, it's great for the guys.
So just like you said, you want the 4K. And when I switched over to 4K, I did almost no slow motion because I want my stuff to look, be in 4K. Right. And with this camera having 4K at 60, that's a huge selling point at this price. So those people who do want to slow stuff down, they could stay at 4K and have the image quality and also slow down their footage.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, someone had mentioned early on in the discussions about this camera, pointed something out to me that I just thought, wow, that's a really good point. I hadn't even thought of this. If you're shooting 4K 60p, which means you're in 8-bit, which is fine, for vast majority of stuff, you don't need to go to 10-bit. So if you're shooting 4K 60 8-bit, but your delivery is 30p, then that means that every single shot that you have the ability to go half speed, 50% speed, and not be adding any frames, not interpolating anything. It's all recorded content. Otherwise, when you're editing at 30, you're just throwing away every other frame. That's phenomenal. That is phenomenal to have that capability in a little freaking $2,000 camera. Yeah. I think it's amazing. So yeah, I'm now shooting everything on here at 4K 60. It's crazy overkill, but heck, why not? You get that one shot, I want to slow that down because it looks so cool. Well, now you can. Yeah. And obviously going to, I don't know if you saw the videos that I did, the snowboarder, that shot at 1080p at 180 frames per second. Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, it is. Oh, yeah.
It's really cool. Yeah. And even if your final delivery is 1080p, which most of us, it still is, our final delivery is 1080, shooting 4K obviously allows us to punch into the shot. It gives us more room for stabilization if we need to do that. There's a lot of advantages to shooting 4K, even if you're only delivering 1080. So. Yeah.
Exactly. I've been shooting 4K since the GH4 came out. I ordered 2 of them right away, and then I bought more. and I was delivering everything in 1080p, and I still deliver some weddings in 1080p because it's an upcharge to do the 4K recording and everything like that. But I don't care if they don't upcharge. If they don't want the 4K, I still shoot at 4K and then I deliver in 1080p because, like you said, to be able to punch in, to fix framing issues, stabilization, get that extra detail. It's amazing. It's hard to go back.
It is.
Afterwards.
It is. Well, and if you're shooting all in 4K, even if you're delivering 1080p, they can call you a couple years later and say, God, we just bought a new 4K TV. Is there any way we could get that wedding video in 4K? Yes, you can.
And that's exactly why I keep copies of a 4K final afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Nice. Well done. All right, let's see what else we got in here. Ed Starkey, this is good. I know that you did some testing with this. Ed Starkey's asking, would using a single focus box work better than the 225 focus points since the camera doesn't know what you want to focus on? And you did some tests this way, so I'm going to let you speak to this.
It's hard to say. If you have a lot of contrast on the edges, that's going to be more for the camera to look at, then yes. In my side-by-side tests, I think it performed similar to the custom multi, which I like to call zone, a little cluster. Mm-hmm. So it performed similar to that, but that single point is really difficult in real-world situations to use if you are moving or your subject is moving. So in our setup here, when my assistant came up close, it covered, I think, just like the nose and the eyes. And when he came up to the door, it covered his whole head. So it was perfect for that situation. But the performance was similar to having the zone, which was wider. Right. And in real world use, we found it hard just with the single focus point. But in one of our tests with our comparison with the A6500, that's what we had to use to get good performance. We had to set to the center and we were pointing it at. So if you're walking around and you have somebody that you're recording and you can keep that on them, my guess, and I think what I've seen is that's the way to go, because that's where the camera looks and ignores stuff in the background on the sides.
Yeah, if you're shooting something like a race car, driving by, a car going by, you want to frame the shot so the car's on the right-hand side of the frame, and you want to follow him that way, and you can put the focus box there and then track him as he moves through. Yeah, that's absolutely would be a benefit. And that's why we have all these extra modes on there, so you can pick the one that works right for the scenario. The face detection, obviously, we all want the face detection to be the perfect, easy one. Obviously, focus on the person. Camera, figure that out. That's ideal. But yeah, it doesn't always necessarily work that way. So yeah, having those options is great. And the multi-zone one, like you said, you can not only choose a zone, center, column, whatever, you can draw your own in. You can paint it in and say, I want this part of the left side and this part of the bottom of the frame to be what it focuses on. It's pretty remarkable that you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff. All right, cool. Next up, let's see. Fuse says, how are you on time, by the way? I don't want to take up...
I'm fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine.
All right, good stuff. Just scrolled off screen. Fuse, here we go. Fuse DZN says, it is very interesting that the autofocus is quicker when not recording. I would fully expect a firmware update to speed up the focus system. Yeah, I can't comment on that. I don't know why that is. I haven't even tested it myself, but obviously Max has, so I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah, it was by accident. It was completely by accident because we dialed in. I watched through tons of different videos from Matt and from Sean, and I heard them saying the settings. If you want to use face detection, you want to be walking in the frame and recording yourself that way with continuous, they said the settings that you should use. So I tried it out, and I wanted to walk in the shot and sit down. And so my assistant didn't hit record yet. And man, the thing, you can see it's in the end of the A6500 versus GH5 video. It locks on, and then I get out of the shot. It goes to the background, locks on again. I was like, wow, this is it's working great. And then, but what happened is when he hit record, I sat down, I recorded my whole outro of the video, and it just stayed on the background the whole time, even though the cluster showed. So after that, we actually we did some tests and with him in it, and we show some examples. And it's interesting when it's not hitting record, it's locking on, it's holding. But when you're hitting record, it didn't. And my thought is, some people say it processes all the data. I don't think the camera is, taking that 5K because it's reading out the whole sensor. It's about twice the data that it needs for 4K. It's super sampling all that data down. It takes a lot of processing power to do, and that's why some cameras, other cameras overheat, have rolling shutter, stuff like that, because it's just so much processing that it's doing. So my thought is it's just doing way more processing when you're actually recording and dealing with all that data and analyzing all the contrast. There's so much crazy things that these cameras do. Mm-hmm. But when you're not actually recording, it doesn't have to encode the footage. It doesn't have to downsample it, stuff like that. Because obviously, it's not showing 5K on the rear LCD screen.
Sure.
It's showing I don't know how it's reading out the pixels.
Yeah.
But when you hit record, it actually has to read all that, take the data, make it twice as small, analyze everything, adjust the autofocus. I mean, there's a ton of work that needs to be done. So that's my thought and kind of what we found with it.
Interesting. Well, hopefully we'll find out soon enough why that's happening, if there's a technical reason or if it's just a bug. So hopefully that'll work out. And obviously this is why I got in so much trouble on my video, because I was recording externally, which is a great way to record still.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. So for everybody here, in my opinion, I definitely don't think that Joseph did that on purpose to try to be sneaky or try to be deceptive at all. I mean, I only found this out by complete accident. And I posted my video maybe an hour before you posted yours, my comparison video, and that was showed at the end of that. So none of us knew that this was the case. I know I definitely didn't know that this was the case, and I don't think that you were trying to be deceptive in any way. Yeah. So
well, thank you. And you, like I said, you posted yours about an hour or so before mine, and I watched part of your video, but I didn't finish it that morning before mine went live, and I had this live show and so on. So I didn't get to finish it, so I didn't even know about that. And everybody's telling me afterwards, well, Max already talked about this. You're an idiot. I'm like, what do I sit around all day watching YouTube videos? I didn't know.
Most people don't finish YouTube videos if you look at your analytics.
Oh, I know, believe me. But it's not because I didn't want to. It's because I had this show to get ready for. Problem. And I'd been up since 1 a.m. the night before. Anyway, all right, let's see here. What else we got? A couple more questions, and then I think we're going to let everybody go home. Bernardo is saying, I'm so happy that you guys are getting things sorted out. Thank you very much. Joel saying, a test using autofocus on a gimbal would be great. Yeah, I think we'll dial in the settings, get that figured out first before we try gimbal. I would love to try a gimbal shot and see if we can make that work, but maybe it's not going to. I don't know. I know manual is the way to go, but people would like to see if there's a good setting for that option. Certainly. Well, Joel, we will try. We will definitely. You have a gimbal. You own a gimbal that'll support this. Great.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. In my first look review, I did some 4K slowing down to 24 with the gimbal. It looks really nice.
Right on. Very cool. Bernardo says, I'm so happy you guys can be civilized and get together to sort this out. A lot of respect here. Look at that. We're civilized.
That's the way to do it.
That's
We're
the way
adults.
To do it. Well, I can't speak for me. I don't know. Just a big kid over here. All right. Chance says 4K test only. Yeah, well, the only reason to go 1080 is if you want to get that 180 frame per second, for sure.
Which there's no autofocus at all in that mode.
Correct. Absolutely, yeah. You're not in autofocus when you're doing that, yeah. And this is all what we're discussing is autofocus. And that's one more thing to just throw out there. We are right now talking about autofocus. That's what this whole discussion is about. That is one of many, many features on the camera. And I probably wouldn't have spent this much time on it as it was if there wasn't so much discussion going on around it already. Frankly,
I definitely wouldn't have. I'm sick of autofocus. I don't want to autofocus for a long time.
Right. So I want to get past the autofocus and get on to other features. And even still, I have barely done anything on still photography with this camera where the autofocus performs insanely well. I got to get some still tests out there. But, I also got to make a living and do real work. As does Max. Okay. Let's see. Any other comments in here we need to hit? No, I think that's good. I think we're good. A few other people just say thanks and howdy, and thank you to all of you. And by the way, thank you, Anime, for throwing out a super chat. Anime says, just want to say that I hope you two collaborate in the future beyond just the GH5. I think we all agree you two make a good discussion team. Why, thank you, Anime Live Reactions. I concur. I think this is fun. Yeah, maybe we start a new show. Maybe we start like a, who knows, God, because we all have all this extra time laying around, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So I still have that one question.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, and I just want to know, because you spent hours interviewing different Panasonic techs, and there's so much content, on the channel. So this was pointed out by one of the viewers, and he said there's so much discussion, but nobody has mentioned this. So he pointed out, and I did find it. So in the manual that's in the box, it's about 150 pages. I think on the 127th page, there's like a URL listed for the advanced manual, and then the advanced manual is online, and that's like 350 or so pages. So in the advanced manual, in the troubleshooting, on the page 332, I have it opened on my phone here. It says, sometimes it is difficult to focus with autofocus when recording 4K motion pictures. So that's kind of like the troubleshooting the issue, because
Okay.
it's highlighted. So if that's the issue you're having, and then the answer is, this phenomenon occurs when the camera is trying to record with highly accurate focus at a reduced autofocus speed, and it is not a malfunction. So it's kind of a little bit hard for me to understand kind of the statement, but the question is, it's when you're shooting 4K, it's difficult to focus with autofocus, and obviously they're saying it's not a malfunction. So
Interesting.
I just thought about this a lot, and what it kind of seen, especially with seeing that when you're not recording, that it was with the face detection, picking me up quite well and consistently. Maybe it's just so much processing, like they mentioned 4K, there's a lot of
Right.
processing going on there that it's difficult to focus with autofocus, and it's not a malfunction. So I wanted to bring this up to you. Have any of the Panasonic techs ever mentioned anything about this? Because it was interesting to see it's in the manual.
Yeah, on page 300, whatever, of the
Yeah,
extended
the
manual. Yeah,
advanced
I can
manual.
guarantee that that everybody at Panasonic hasn't read every page of that manual. I wanted to look. I was going to pull up the manual myself because I know I have a copy of it here, but no. Anyway, yeah, no, I haven't heard anything about that. So thank you for noting that. I will pass that along. Well, they're watching, I know, so they'll look that up, and I'm sure I'll get an email or call about it. But no, I hadn't heard that before. That's interesting. So basically,
Yeah,
it's saying that if you're shooting
I
4K, don't expect the best autofocus performance.
kind of what it sounds like. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. Oh, well. That Sony camera, that little A6500 you tested with, does that shoot 4K?
Yeah, it shoots 4K up to 30, which, I mean, nothing really shoots 4K 60 unless you're spending very high-end, money. So nothing close to this price point will do 4K 60. But yeah, it's just 4K 30. And like I've mentioned in all my Sony reviews and any video, the Sony has its own host of problems. It's not a perfect camera. And for a lot of people, that doesn't work for their uses either. There's no perfect camera, and I don't expect there to ever be a perfect camera.
Sure.
I think you have, like we mentioned, you have to find the right tool for the job for your specific use case. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
and there's a reason why I wanted to buy a bunch of GH4s for wedding shooting. I own a bunch of other cameras already, so there's specific things that I'm looking for that it does offer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, right tool for the job. That is unquestionable. That is without question. What's the word? Anyway, that is right. That's what I want to say. Okay, I think we're going to knock this off here. Thank you again for coming on. See if anything else came up. No, we're good there. Thank you very much, Max. I really appreciate you coming on live
problem.
with me today. That was fun.
Sounds good. Yeah. So we'll talk about the trip afterwards.
Yeah. Let's. Well, I'll send you an email as soon as we're off the show here, and we'll talk about it.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. That's it. We're going to end the show here. Thank you very much for watching live. That was the biggest live show that we've done. A lot of people watching here already, so that is fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for the comments. Thank you for the support. I'm glad that people are happy to see us together working this out, because at the end of the day, the only agenda here is to get the best features, the best capabilities out of this camera possible, because it is a remarkable camera. As we have both said, it may not do everything that you want. It may not be the perfect camera ever, the best camera ever made, whatever, the most perfect camera, but it is a remarkable piece of gear, and where its features may not be as strong, we're going to find out how to work around that, how to get the best out of it, and that's just all there is to it. So with that, everybody, thank you very much. We're going to sign off now. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.